If elected, you would be the oldest president in American history.
But I'm in good shape.
78 years old, 82 after 4 years. Donald Trump says you have dementia and it's getting worse.
Hey, the same guy who thought that the 9/11 attack was a 7/11 attack, he's talking about dementia? All I can say to the American people is watch me. You see what I've done. You see what I'm going to do. Look at me. Compare our physical and mental acuity. I'm happy to have that comparison.
We've watched you and we've seen enough. Even the Democrats know, lots of them. They want you to go, Joe. You cannot hack this candidacy, this campaign, nor the presidency. We saw it all at the debate. I've been seeing it, quite frankly, years before the debate, and so have our viewers. It is amazing that we're here, though, that they kept this a secret from so many people, not from us, but from tens of millions of Americans who rely on the fake news. I never thought that they could keep a secret like that. I mean, who remembers hearing about FDR? Arguably a great president. We know that he was in a wheelchair, he had polio, but the people back then did not know that. There were only like 3 or 4 pictures of him in a wheelchair. The people did not know. They kept it a secret. JFK, John F. Kennedy, man, that guy, talk about a womanizer. I mean, he was having orgies in the White House swimming pool. Here he is arranging a tryst with Marilyn Monroe. Now, the reporters knew that, but they would not tell the American people. So I thought, well, that's yesteryear. That could never happen again. It happened again. Joe Biden in obvious decline for years, and they would not tell the American people. The real Biden is with his mouth hanging open, totally, just lost. Fortunately, some people are coming forward, some very skilled people with honesty, candor, and expertise, and laying out the obvious. Now, you don't have to be a doctor to know this, but this guy happens to be a doctor. He happens to specialize in Parkinson's disease, and his name is Dr. Tom Pitts, and I think he's pretty awesome. Check this out.
Have you noticed anything that gives you a red flag as a doctor?
Oh, yeah, I see him 20 times a day in clinic. I mean, it's ironic because he has just such classic features of neurodegeneration. I mean, word finding difficulties, and that's not, I couldn't find the word. That's from degeneration of the word retrieval area.
He's also overcome stuttering, though. Could that be part of that, too?
No, this is not a palatal issue or a speech discrepancy, which is very different from a lemino dysfunction, actual word retrieval, where you pick a similar question or talk around the issue, plus the rigidity, monotone voice.
Wait, go back to that, the rigidity. What do you mean?
Rigidity, loss of arm swing, standing up lordically. You notice when he turns, it's kind of end block turning. It's not a quick turn. So that's one of the hallmarks of Parkinson's is rigidity and bradykinesia, slow movement.
Wow, that's pretty thorough. And he knows, and he's known for a long time. Keep going, doctor.
And he has that hallmark, especially with the low voice that said was a cold hypophonia. A small monotone voice like this over time is a hallmark of Parkinsonism. I could have diagnosed him from across the mall.
Here are some of the symptoms.
Across the mall. Yeah, they've been hiding behind this thing for a long time. Well, doctors can't because they can't comment because they can't examine him. Sometimes it's just, you can see it from outer space or across the mall. I so appreciate this guy who happens to be a Democrat. We'll get to that in a second.
Once you start manifesting the hallmark motor symptoms,
right?
Slow movement, rigidity, mass facies, hypophonia. I mean, if a med student did not pick Parkinson's on the test, they'd be remediated.
Remediated, I think that's a fancy way of saying they'd have to go back to, I don't know, they'd be left back in medical school. They'd have to repeat something. Keep going, doctor.
What I cannot comment on is his ability to make good decisions. His motor symptoms are degenerating. He has Parkinsonism. That is a fact. He has degeneration of the brain. Show me the MRI. Show me he doesn't. Put your money where your mouth is. He definitely has it. But the problem is when you look at his situation, you can't say, I know for a fact that because he didn't retrieve the word, he didn't know what he wanted to say. And that's why both him and Trump should take the 4-hour neuropsychological testing, which is the hallmark test for cognitive performance.
A 4-hour test? I know that Donald Trump would be up for that in a heartbeat. Joe Biden? Never in a million years. It's one of the reasons why I do think he's going to have to leave. He has made it categorical. He's not taking that test. Now, the part about him being a Democrat and his observations about what's happening more broadly.
You sound like you're frustrated with what the White House is saying.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because, I'm an American before everything. And I look at it and say, when I used to see Russia, Soviet Union, North Korea, when they just make outrageous things, like when North Korea can't keep the lights on and they say, it was some faulty power thing. I kind of hate that kind of stuff. They had 4 years, my own party had 4 years to find, this was a wreck in slow motion. And they had 4 years to find out of 350 Americans, one person that could take the place. And here we are the day before school trying to do the homework and replace a guy who's got a neurodegenerative disease.
That's where Democrats are right now. And shame on them, right? Oh, by the way, a rare bright light in the fake news. Tom Yamas interviewing this guy. You mentioned North Korea, Russia. Yep, this is right out of their playbook. Let's go to the New York Times back in 1975. In the Soviet Union, the public is told only what the Communist Party has decided it needs to know. No explanations are felt to be necessary. That's been the theme of the Biden administration right up until the debate and the aftermath, right? Now, it's kind of sad, but it's also kind of amusing. I mean, keeping this from the American people for as long as they did. And when Donald Trump dare raise the issue back in 2020, an issue that we could all see, what did they say he was up to, huh? He's saying things without evidence. And he is, oh yes, repeating Russian talking points, Russian propaganda. The U.S. government actually accused President Trump of being a Russian intelligence proxy. Check this out.
It was meant to be a warning, an intelligence bulletin from the Department of Homeland Security alerting local, state, and federal law enforcement to a Russian scheme to damage Joe Biden's presidential campaign. The draft bulletin, titled "Russia Likely to Denigrate Health of U.S. Candidates to Influence 2020 Election," said intelligence analysts had determined with high confidence that Russia is trying to convince voters that Joe Biden isn't mentally fit to be president. As evidence, the bulletin cites stories by Russian-controlled news outlets from September 2019 until May of this year, claiming, without evidence, that Joe Biden's, quote, verbal miscues are symptoms of dementia. The Trump campaign's message on Biden's fitness has been similar to the one the bulletin attributes to the Russians, including this ad released in June.
Joe Biden is slipping.
Rapidly rising and with...
That's amazing. Anything that Democrats don't like, it's the Russians. You are pushing Russia disinformation. Wow. All right. Look, you don't have to be an intelligence specialist or a doctor to know that Joe Biden has problems. You don't have to be. And the symptoms, by the way, does this sound familiar, right? There are a whole bunch of them, but I want to focus on the third on the left. Anger, and aggression. That's Joe Biden. The anger and aggression, sure enough. Take a look.
America bows to no one. No one said that. He said that. How dare he say that? The weapon's only meant for one thing, to kill people.
No, I wasn't. And I don't. Were you? No.
Read the polls, Jack. You guys are all the same. Talk about being deprived of your pride. That is your judgment. That is your judgment. That is not the judgment of the press.
Give me a break. Come with me. Watch.
Wow. He wasn't like that earlier in his career. He was nasty in other ways, but he didn't yell and scream like that. Seems to be a symptom of Parkinson's, degeneration. Totally makes sense. It's amazing to see the White House, the deep state pushing back, like gaslighting us. I hate the word gaslighting, but they're gaslighting. They're pretending everything is normal. Everything is not normal. And saying that we can't make these observations even in 2020, or else we're some sort of a Russian spy. It reminds me of a classic movie, The Caine Mutiny. Humphrey Bogart and the rest, right? That was an awesome film. Humphrey Bogart was the captain of a ship, and he lost his mind, and the crew, well, to save the ship, they mutinied. They took over, and, well, they were accused of a crime. Mutiny is technically a crime in the Navy, and so they cross-examined the main mutineer. the guy who saved the ship. And, well, just watch this. I think it reminds me of how so many of us are treated today when we raise questions.
Your witness, sir.
Mr. Merrick, just a few questions. Would you say your grades in high school were average?
Lower than average.
And in college?
Lower than average.
What training have you had in psychiatry or medicine?
None.
Where did you get the idea that Captain Queeg was mentally ill?
Well, out of books.
What books? Name the titles.
Oh, I can't remember them.
Mr. Merrick, define schizophrenia.
I can't.
What is a manic depressive?
I don't know.
What's the difference between the words paranoid and paranoia?
I don't know.
In truth, then, Mr. Merrick, you don't know what you're talking about when you discuss mental illness.
Oh, I didn't say I knew much about it.
Yet you thought you knew enough to commit an act that was outright mutiny.
I wanted to save the ship.
Not to give it away, but I think I can. The movie is 70 years old. Save the ship. And well, I wouldn't tell you the rest. It's a fantastic movie, but that's how so many of us are treated. That snob, that prosecutor, is a famous actor. His name escapes me right now. He treats us like the fake news and, I don't know, the establishment, the culture. You don't have the qualifications to raise this issue. Sit down and shut up. By the way, Humphrey Bogart lost it on the bridge, and he loses it in the courtroom. But if he didn't lose it, they would have put that guy in prison. They would have put him in prison. So what are we supposed to do? Wait for another 9/11? We can't, all right? And the test, if another 9/11 happens, won't be can Joe complete his sentences. It will be what is the subject matter of those sentences? What is the direction he leads the country? And he can't do that. All he can do at best is put up a facade that he is temporarily competent, right? Our founding fathers, our great founding fathers, they thought of all kinds of eventualities, but they didn't think of this one. But they realized the Constitution, we got to make it flexible. We have to have amendments. And they came up with one in 1967, the 25th Amendment, for this kind of situation. If the president loses the ability to be president, what are you going to do? Well, according to the 25th Amendment, this can happen whenever the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments, that's the cabinet, transmit to the president of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. The vice president shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office's acting president. I think we need that right now, and it should be discussed more. I mean, after January 6th, right? Total farce, that scam they pulled. You know, they were pushing this 25th Amendment big time on Trump.
I do think that, the ideal situation would be to trigger the 25th Amendment and impeach Trump.
We have to have Donald Trump removed through the 25th Amendment.
Do you support the impeachment of Donald Trump?
Well, I support the 25th Amendment being invoked.
Wow. Funny how we've come to the point we are here, just as President Trump said in the final days of his administration, after January 6th, but before Biden's inauguration, on a visit to the border, he said this.
The 25th Amendment is of zero risk to me, but will come back to haunt Joe Biden and the Biden administration. As the expression goes, be careful what you wish for.
President Trump, I mean, he's like a mystic sometimes. The predictions, the cabinet. Could the cabinet of Joe Biden, more than half of it, vote to pull the 25th Amendment? Not on their own, but if Barack Obama gets involved, yeah. I mean, they're more loyal to him than to Joe Biden. I think this guy's pulling the strings, and that string probably right now should be pulled because Joe Biden is not qualified to do anything. He is a lawyer by training. Would you hire Joe Biden if you were in a jam to defend you, say if you got pulled over for driving while intoxicated or something like that? Is he qualified to drive an Uber? A lot of great people do that, but Could he do that? Could he work at McDonald's, a kind of an entry-level job? No, he couldn't do any of these things, yet somehow he's president of the United States and is supposed to remain so. No. And one other thing, maybe Joe has offered, maybe this is a cry for help.